Welcome to The Healing Half. My name is Mickey Spear. I am a grief musician, author, and talk show host. And every single Tuesday, we spend a short half an hour together to learn how can we address our own wounds as well as help others with theirs. And in case we haven't met before, I am a motherless daughter. My mom passed away when I was 13 years old from colon cancer. And I spent the better part of a decade pretending I was fine, trying to convince the world around me that I was fine. And obviously, if you know anything about grief, the only way to get through grief is to go through grief. So eventually that plan didn't work, as it never does. And I had to come face to face with the reality that I had a lot of grief to go through, but I didn't know where to start. So thankfully, I got to the counselor, did lots of journaling and so many good things to get me on a much better spot. And I wanted to start a show where we all could create content together, teaching each other how to begin that healing process and how can we help others in situations we don't understand, because so many people wanted to help me in that time and I didn't know how to help myself. They didn't know how to help me, and it was like ships passing in the night. And so that's my mission, is to bring people together so that together as a community we can all love ourselves and others better. And tonight is one of those topics, you guys, that is so important to talk about, that does not get a lot of airtime culturally. Most people are really awkward about it, and that is the topic of miscarriage. Now, we had Alexia on the show a couple weeks back here, and it was so great to have her on. I wanted to have her on again because I felt like there was a follow-up topic we didn't get to. So without further ado, please welcome on Alexia Erickson.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it is so great to have you back on. Thank you again. I know you are a busy mom with kids getting ready for bed. So we are so grateful for you being here. Now, for those of us who are not familiar with you, and if you guys are watching live or as a replay, let us know in the comments. Both of us will go back through and see where you're calling in from. It's always great to know that you're watching live or as a replay. So for those of us who did not catch you on the last episode, do you mind just quickly introducing yourself and your mission?
Yes, so I'm Alexia. I'm a stay-at-home mom to two toddlers. And last year, I lost my third child to miscarriage at 18 weeks. And a couple months after I lost him, I started an Instagram account just to talk about my own miscarriage. And now it's turned into trying to normalize this conversation and help people get through their grief and help others get through it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for the work that you do. I am so sorry for your loss. And what was your baby's name?
Wesley.
Wesley. I think I forgot to ask that last time. So thank you for sharing your and
Thank
Wesley's
you.
story and your whole family's story. I know it affects everybody. And last time, you guys, if you haven't watched that episode, you just gotta go back. I got so much good feedback after the show. People were texting me saying, like, wow, like that was amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you haven't watched the first one, please put that on your to-do list because it's definitely worth watching. But today we're gonna pick up kind of after our last episode, which was essentially, miscarriage misconceptions. How can we help? What are some common things? And today we're going to talk about like kind of a different direction, but within the same realm of pregnancy after miscarriage. And I would love for you just to kind of tell your story, perhaps, so that way we can kind of understand the mindset of somebody going into that decision.
Yeah. After my miscarriage for a couple weeks, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I can't go through this again. You lose trust in your body after you miscarry. And so I just thought if I get pregnant again, it's going to happen again. I can't do it. And then I changed my mind and I became really desperate to like feel hope again and to feel trust in my body and to have a healthy delivery again. I really felt like it could happen and I really desperately wanted it to happen. So I got pregnant just 2 months after I delivered, which in hindsight was really, really fast. It was not enough time for my body to like heal before getting pregnant again, starting over first trimester. But everything has gone okay. We had a few a few bumps during first trimester. I had what they call a threatened miscarriage, um, which is when you just have kind of unexplained bleeding and cramping, but the baby is fine. So that happened at about 7 weeks. And when that happened, I was totally certain that it was happening again. And so
Oh,
I woke up in the morning and it started. And with my first miscarriage, I didn't miscarry at home. I never had any signs of it because it was a miscarriage. So I found out at my OB's office. I had no clue. And so this time it was totally different. And it was happening at home, kind of like you hear about it happening, right? And I definitely I like mourned the pregnancy. Like that morning I went into my OB's office to get an ultrasound to kind of confirm. I thought that it was happening. And then he says, "Oh no, there's a heartbeat." And I was like, "How? How is there a heartbeat?" So then we went home and waited another few days, and all my symptoms continued. I was cramping really bad, and I went back in, and baby was still miraculously okay. So
wow.
since then, things have been pretty smooth. So I am 33 weeks now, so we're kind of getting close.
Oh, that is so thank you so much for sharing that. I when in your Instagram community, which we could talk all about kind of at the end, but in mainstream miscarriage, which is this wonderful community of women and men, maybe, I'm not sure.
There's like
on
a small percentage.
4%, that's okay. On Instagram, I know you do a fantastic job at engaging your audience and like asking them questions. Can you kind of talked about just like that fear of getting back into it? Can you maybe share some of their thoughts and their perspectives of like what are they going through? What are all of you guys going through as you're kind of facing that decision?
Yeah, one of the really big things that they say is that they're terrified to get pregnant again, and they're terrified to never get pregnant again. Um, Both are very scary because, like I said, it breaks that trust that you had with your body. And like in my case, and in the case of lots of these women, I've surprisingly met lots of women who are in like very similar circumstances to me, where they had like one, two, or three living children, and then they miscarried, and it was this huge shock because you trusted your body, and now you can't. And so you can't even trust that you're going to get pregnant again because your
Mm,
fertility, it just seems like it's so random. Like you can be totally fine to get pregnant one time, and then the next time it's not going to happen, and then the next time it's totally
yeah.
fine. So there's anxiety both ways.
Mm,
There's also a lot of women have described to me that they feel that like desperation to feel hope again, that they feel like if they can have a healthy full term delivery, then that's going to do a lot for their healing. Um, and then there are women who have been there and who have had the healthy delivery after loss. And they say, it helps kind of, but like the hurt and the trauma of the loss is still there. Like a new baby doesn't replace the old baby, of course. You miss
mm,
that baby and you're grieving that baby. So it's another member of the family, but it doesn't fix what you went through,
yeah.
nothing can erase that.
That is so beautifully said, and I appreciate you saying that because I think, like, as we kind of talked about in last episode, the outsider perspective is, "Oh, you're pregnant again. Like, great, move on." Then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
obviously obviously, we would never say that to somebody who, like, lost a parent or anything else. So I just so appreciate that perspective, and do you find a lot of women, like you said, it's kinda scary either way? I guess if from our perspective, what does your community say is helpful for people on the outside to kind of say during that time? Because I'm assuming, are you going to try again? Is not the time to ask that question. Maybe there's
Yeah.
never a good time to ask that question.
I know. I feel
Actually,
like
now
there's
that I
never is
say
a good
that.
time. Yeah, that's a big one, and we've had like lots of conversations about that in stories. I've had people, like submit comments about that, and a big one is they hate getting asked, so when are you going to try again? Are you trying again? And it's that word trying that it's like, oh, so what? I like didn't try hard enough last time. I didn't do a good job last time. Oh, I got to try again. Like, because you blame yourself so much when you lose a baby at any stage, it seems, because there are women in the community who've lost babies at 5 weeks and who've lost babies at 41 weeks, just everybody. And so you blame yourself. And then when people ask, are you going to try again? And there are people who can't try again. If they've had ectopic pregnancies or other complications, then they can't, or if emotionally they can't. So yeah, it's never good to ask when are you going to try again?
Wow, that's heartbreaking, first of all. But thank you for that perspective of, as with anything in life, we never know what the other person is going through. And odds are at Target, it's not the time, but they'd want to talk to you anyways about that. But especially that question in general, there's no good place to ask that. And so I guess instead, kind of in that in between, because I know we'll talk about rainbow babies and all that kind of in a second. But in that in between where a mom has miscarried, perhaps you're not like in their inner circle, because I feel like there's more candidness there when it's like your sister or something. But even then, it's good to know. It's good to know what to say. But I guess for the kind of people who want to help but they're not sure how, is there any phrasing that does help? That's like, instead of asking that probing question, which we'll just never ask from here on out, is there anything that people say kind of in that in between that would help that situation?
Yeah, I would say that it would be helpful to focus on remembering that baby that they lost and focusing on, just because they're trying again or you think they might be trying again, it doesn't really it doesn't mean that they're moved on. You can never move on. Even if you move forward, you don't move on. And so to ask them, just still about their baby and how are you recovering? How are you feeling? I feel like a lot of people don't realize all of the physical recovery that goes into miscarriage. I have like a little highlight bubble on my Instagram page that talks about the physical recovery, because that's one of the things that people complain doesn't get talked about, and people have said that even, 5-6 week loss, I mean, your body starts to change really early on to make room in the hormones and everything. And even then they feel the effects, or their cycles are thrown off for a really long time after an early loss or late loss. So yeah, I would just keep it focused on like, how's your recovery going? I'm remembering your baby. Would you like to talk about your baby? Things like that, and keeping it off the future, because sometimes it's hard to talk about the future right away because it's like you're not ready to move forward even yet.
Wow, thank you so much. And I guess with that body stuff, I know you kind of have two parts where it's like, not only are you recovering, and that's so good for us to keep in mind, where it's like they had trauma mentally and physically, and like we need to like surround them with that. Is there and earlier you mentioned the lack of trust sometimes mothers start to have with their body, even though like statistics, would say like it can happen to anybody. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But obviously, when it's your child, that doesn't mean a whole lot.
Now, like statistics mean nothing.
Yeah, statistics out the window. So regarding physical body, is there anything we on the outside could say to somebody who's kind of having those like thoughts of like, what's wrong with me? I'm broken. Or is it better to not, like, I guess, I'm not doing a great job asking this question, but no. I would love, like, I just don't know how to address, like, if somebody is vulnerable and kind of says a fear that they're having, is there anything that we could say that would help? Or is it better just to listen and point them towards a mainstream miscarriage Instagram page?
Yeah, I feel like it is best to just sit with them in that and just say, yeah, that is super hard. That's super hard. Because I didn't want to hear anyone tell me at the start. They're like, no, but it'll be fine next time, or but it'll be like, that didn't matter to me. I didn't want to hear that. And like we were talking about statistics, like for my miscarriage was at 18 weeks. At 18 weeks, your chances of miscarrying are less than 1%, but it still happens to some people. So it doesn't. Yeah, I feel like just sitting with them, and then if you know of a good resource, then direct them to that. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. That's so good, because I think it's almost, it's funny, like culturally, I feel like when somebody is just in a hard spot, we just want to wrap our arms around them and like make it all better and say, no, 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 like you're okay. You're going to be okay. There's nothing wrong with you. But obviously, throughout the show, I feel like that's been the theme of like every topic is like, you know what? It's not about fixing, it's about sitting.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. So as we kind of like follow the timeline here, we last episode we covered the hospital and just all the heartache that came from your story. So again, I'm so sorry. Then you kind of talked about there's the physical, the mental aftermath that a lot of people don't talk about. Um, and then some people, not all people, may start to try again and they actually might get pregnant again. When that happens, I'm sure the people around you want to just jump up for joy and be like, yay, congratulations. Wah! It happened. That's probably not the same emotion you guys are going through. So, can you kind of walk us through when you find out you're pregnant again? Where are you at? Like, where's your brain at? And then what can we say that's appropriate and not shameful?
Yeah. So because I got pregnant so soon after, one of my biggest fears was that people like weren't going to be excited, that they were going to be like, okay, here we go again. Like, should we get excited? Like I felt like I was the girl who kept like crying pregnant and it kept like not working out. And so I, yeah, of course, everyone was excited, at least to my face, they were excited. But when I got that positive test, I cried like out of hope and excitement and out of just like total fear. And I didn't want to get attached. So I spent, I don't know, at least the first half of the pregnancy trying so hard not to get attached, not to think about it. I didn't try to keep track of how many weeks I was. I tried to just not think about it. And I don't, like, it's not a really healthy thing to do, but I feel like it was the only thing I could do. I couldn't get my hopes up. My anxiety hasn't really gone down as I've gotten further along, just because like I know that even if there's a less than 1% chance, it's still happening to somebody, and it could happen to me. So that's been hard. I feel like I'm more accepting of it now. And it probably sounds morbid to someone who like hasn't experienced pregnancy loss. So I'm sorry if it does, but like I feel comforted that at this point, because I'm in third trimester, that if I were to deliver, if I were to have a stillbirth, I would at least be far enough along that I could like see my baby and hold my baby, and see all of their features. Like, you start to kind of look for like what the silver linings would be in your situation, because it feels like a real possibility now, even though it never did before.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and you know what? Your story is your story. There's no right and there's no wrong. It just is what it is. So thank you for sharing that. And I feel like that's really good perspective for us, because just remember like that the anxiety is there. So is there anything we can say? And I would love to dive into the word congrats with you in just a second. But as we know somebody who had a miscarriage and they're pregnant again, that anxiety, is there anything like we could do to acknowledge that?
Yeah, I feel like, there are a few kind of phrases like to not say, like if I'm expressing that I'm really anxious during this pregnancy, and then for someone to say like, just be positive, it's better for the baby, and it's like, okay, so this will be my fault again. Like,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Oh no.
Or the like, yeah, you've got to move forward, you've got to move on. I couldn't really be fully present for this baby at the beginning because I was still mourning the loss of the last baby. So I feel like, yeah, just keep your expectations kind of that they're going to take it slow, and it might take them a long time to accept it or even seem excited about it, because it seems like it's a really exciting thing, right? It's exciting to like have another chance. But it's so hard, and it's so much more complicated than just being pregnant and being excited about it.
Wow, thank you so much for that insight. And I guess to that point, where people am so grateful for a couple big takeaways that you've given me through this is one of them, you just hit the nail on the head, where it's like we are thinking like, oh, one and done, like, woo, we're moving on, we're excited, we want to like provide that energy in that space to be excited for you. But I'm just so every time you talk, I'm like, we need to tamper that down. So one of the words that I'm sure gets tossed around a lot with any pregnancy, with any engagement, with anything in this world these days, it's congrats. Like, that's so exciting for you. For somebody who has had a miscarriage, and this is kind of the baby right after that, what would you say that we should do instead of that?
I would do exactly what you did when I told you that I was pregnant, and to say, how are you feeling? Does congratulations feel appropriate? I love that you asked me that. You can tell that someone is very grief aware when they ask when they ask something like that. Because when people jump immediately to congratulations, then it makes me feel pressure, like, okay, I've got to act like I'm really excited and this is totally fine and it's great, which I do with all strangers, of course. But like, when it's somebody close to me, I want to be able to be kind of honest about where I'm at. So yeah, I love the way that you asked it, to say like, how are you feeling about it? Does congratulations feel right to you?
Yeah, well, I appreciate. I'm glad that you like that phrase.
Yeah.
That's always good feedback to get. But yeah, I feel like that's something for all of us just to keep in mind, is just ask. And I feel like what conversations can come from that, because maybe they are having a bad day and they're like, you know what, congratulations doesn't feel great right now. And then they have a segue to talk about that. Somebody once told me that if we can phrase questions as more open-ended with all things in life, but especially grief, that's so much better than asking an assumptive question like, are you excited? Because
Yeah.
then you have to say yes or no, and it's kind of already out there. So then you feel like you're pivoting versus a blank slate, which is just, what is it? And then you get to direct it
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah. It leaves room for lots of I'm excited and I'm scared and I'm terrified and yeah, all the things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've got a couple more questions for you, and then I will let you go. So, and I know, baby, does this have you? You don't have to share the name. I don't want to do anything. Should I refer to your current baby as anything, or just baby work?
Just baby. Baby's good.
Baby works good. Okay, so
Thank you.
current baby, I know has not been delivered yet. So this might be more based off of your audience's perspective. But after baby is born, what is some helpful ways that we as outsiders can be excited for a baby, but then also remember the miscarriage and not just let that totally go to the wayside for the rest, really, of life?
Yeah. So there's this one mom that I follow, and her very first baby was a stillborn. I believe at 34, 35 weeks, like really far along. And then she had a live birth, and now she's pregnant again. And she said that one of the huge things for her is that when people like acknowledge that like her living child, that was her second pregnancy and her second child, that they didn't say
Mm.
like, oh, it's finally your first Mother's Day or whatever. Like she's like, no, I've been a mom this whole time. So I feel like recognizing that they've been a mother this whole time. And most of the women I talk to do want to be acknowledged as a mother, even if they don't have any living children. There are some who don't. So it would be another thing to like check with your friend and say like, do you consider yourself a mom? Like, do you want to be called that? Do you want to be recognized on Mother's Day? Some don't, some do. It really just depends. But yeah, acknowledging. So like for me, it means so much when people acknowledge that like, this is my fourth pregnancy and my fourth child. This is not my third. This is my fourth. So that makes a really big difference. So if you're visiting a mom postpartum, yeah, to give a little nod to that, and a nod to their previous baby as an older sibling, to this baby. Yeah, like that makes a big difference. And then also being aware that a lot of moms who give birth that have had loss before, that now they have a live birth, they say that they have a lot more postpartum anxiety, just because you're so grateful, you're so excited, you finally had the baby. It doesn't exclude you from all the other parenting struggles.
Yeah.
So they will still deal with postpartum depression or anxiety and all of those things. And it really, because it makes you realize how fragile life is. And so a lot of them say that they feel way more anxious with a newborn.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you have done. I know we're like right up on our time here. So I just want to say thank you again. Do you want to? I'm sure we've got a billion questions. So if you guys listening have questions for Alexia, feel free to post them in the comments or message me and I can connect you to or find her on mainstream media. Do you have any last words before we wrap it up?
That's all. Thank you so much for having me again. This has been really great.
Yes. Oh, our total pleasure. You will be in our thoughts and our prayers as you go into delivery. And like you said, and afterwards. Like this is so powerful, so perspective filled. I can't wait to go back through and take notes, as well as work with you on creating some cards that people can send those who have had a miscarriage. So thank you so much for being here. It was so great to have you once again.
Thank you.